5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Mac Talks, everybody. I am your host, Scott Johnson. This young fellow to my right is my co-host, Chase Hutchison.
Hi, guys.
Chase, tell the people what the Mac Talks are.
The Mac Talks are that vehicle that brings you the stories that you need to hear from business owners, entrepreneurs, and impactful leaders.
That's right, dude. That's what we do. And on today's show, we have an awesome guest. He has turned a tragedy into an amazing mission to create change by preventing violence and building compassion through brain health research, community education, and engagement. The CEO and founder of the Aviel Foundation, Jeremy Richmond. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks, guys. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good this morning.
That's good.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. So let's just kind of jump right into your story. So we know that you've endured some terrible tragedy, which has led to the beginning of the Aviel Foundation. Can you please take us back to how and why you started the foundation?
Well, you're going way back because there's no such thing as a short story with me.
Yeah, right.
Much to most people's displeasure. But, so I'm a neuroscientist, and I've been interested in studying how the brain works since I was a really little kid. I had a grandfather that had Alzheimer's disease, and most people nowadays know what that means, but in those days it was just kind of a senility or dementia, and it turns out that it really changes your whole personality, and it was really tragic to watch him suffer through that and watch my family deal with that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it really fascinated me that our whole personalities down to our core really depend on the proper functioning of this organ, the brain, that as I dug into it, it turns out we just didn't know anything about it. And that really fascinated me, and it was kind of, it was exciting. And I moved into the arena that we call neuropsychopharmacology, mm-hmm. which is the study of how chemicals affect your behavior, whether you make them inside your own body, or you take them in nutritionally, or therapeutically, or recreationally. How they affect your behavior is what I was really fascinated by, and that's eventually what I got my PhD in. And then
originally you're from?
Well, I was out west.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Colorado, and then grew up mostly in Arizona, and that's where I did my undergrad and graduate work.
Okay.
And then I moved, and that's where I met my wife Jennifer, who was a scientist as well.
So you speak the same language.
We speak the same language, which is good because we can geek out together. But it's also really good that she's not a neuroscientist, because when you're in any particular field for any given amount of time, you start to contrive the box that you live in, and you say, here are the boundaries, and it's hard to think outside that by definition. And she's not a neuroscientist, so 9 out of 10 things that she says are just like, yeah, that doesn't.
It's different perspective.
That doesn't make any sense. But that 1 in 10, you're like, oh, that's a freaking good idea. Mm-hmm. And so that's been good, and that's been fun. We did our postgraduate work at Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee, which was a really fun place to live for a while.
Yeah.
And then we moved into the drug discovery arena in Southern California, in San Diego. And we were there for about 10 years, and still working in neuroscience and neuropsychopharmacology. And that's where we had a little baby girl, Aviel, and she grew up like a complete SoCal, no shoes, outside all the time, big smile, little surfer girl. And then looking always at opportunities to explore our country and grow and do different things. We got recruited out here to New England to work for a large pharmaceutical company called Boehringer Ingelheim.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know who they are because they're privately owned, so they don't have to appeal to the investor, so to speak, or to the board or the investor. But they're a huge company, and they brought us out here, and the family moved out, and everything was good for about a year, and then unfortunately, as you alluded to in the intro, this is where the story takes a tragic turn, and Aviel was one of the 20 first graders and among the the 26 people murdered in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting that took place just about 6 years ago in a couple of weeks on December 14th of 2012. And, as you can imagine, that turned our life upside down and all around. And in the hours and days afterwards, immediately you have to grab onto something because you just feel like the world is just spinning out of control. Like there's nothing that you can do to control life's spin.
Yeah.
And it's hard to express that feeling of just utter dread and heartbreak. And so we had to do something. And, we thought about all the different ways that people react to these kind of sensationalized tragedies that you hear about.
Yeah.
But now that we were sort of behind the curtain, so to speak, we realized like we had to do something. So we decided within a real blurry couple of days that we were going to play to our strength as scientists and create a foundation that studies violence so that we can look at it in a medical fashion as a disease that could be prevented, intervened, and cured. And that became the Aviel Foundation. And so right away we created a mission statement to prevent violence and build compassion through the support of neuroscience, brain health research, studying the signs and symptoms of risk factors that lead to violence and what are the protective factors that lead away from it. We wanted to fund research that looked at the biochemical bridges that explain the behavioral sciences that you can actually see. And then the second half of that of the mission, which came along with that, was recognizing that science in a vacuum, in that sort of ivory tower that scientists live in where they speak their own language and they kind of, they get in their own corner and they just play there. Nobody else can get in. That's worthless if you can't give it to the everyday person.
And that's what you're trying to do, is to bring it out to
the everyday person.
Yeah.
To anybody, so that when you're at home and you're having, a crisis of any form for yourself or a loved one, there's going to be, we want to give you some tools that apply to you personally that you can use to prevent violence and build compassion.
Yeah. And, besides just the tools, you're helping educate people about the stats as well. So, one of the things that I've heard you mention before, and it's been kind of something that you guys have been talking about a lot over at the foundation, and something that I never knew about, and you're able to educate me and everybody else, and that's that $63 per death is what the federal government commits to gun violent research. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that in comparisons to other numbers as far as what is spent.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that like our perspective really controls our spending, and we've become a country that's really adept at reacting to violence. Mm-hmm. Primarily with incarceration. Yeah, and we have the largest incarcerated population in the world. Our population of incarcerated individuals is larger than most other countries' populations total, mm-hmm. and that's a real shame. Because it turns out we don't spend virtually anything to actually look at why do we have violence and how do we prevent it in the first place. And that mm-hmm. would be a very inexpensive front-end investment for a profoundly valuable back-end return.
Exactly.
Just to get objective and sort of very clear and financial about it. We don't do that. But we disproportionately, for example, Nick will remind me of the actual numbers, but I think it's like $160,000 spent in research per death to understand and prevent HIV and AIDS. Yeah, which claims a fraction of the lives that violence claims. Yeah, and the $68 per life killed to gun violence again is gun violence and violence. We're committed to preventing violence of any form, whatever the tool being. Mm-hmm. So that we can get to the underlying root cause of violence in the first place before somebody picks up a weapon of any kind, whether it's a fist, a penis, a harsh
Yeah.
treatment of somebody, whatever that tool is. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it is a firearm and it is a very lethal tool. But when you think $68 is spent to understand and prevent each life lost to gun violence, then it's a fraction of that to study violence in general. And we want to change that. We want to be the organization that is actually putting money into studying it
and also bringing awareness about those numbers. Because I mean, to me, I was blown away when I heard you say that the first time. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and the cool part about it is that number is going to continue to go up because of the work that you guys are doing.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly, you know, it's kind of sad. I mean, we don't want to have to lean on the government for that type of stuff, but
Right.
you know, if they're using, if they're using money that's a part of tax dollars, that's then yeah, we should have a say in it, and
Yeah.
they should start to do a little more with it.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for people to fathom. It's understandable why we commit money to heart disease, to HIV, to diabetes research, to, if your child or yourself are suffering with cancer or heart disease or diabetes, HIV, you demand research be done to help you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the victim of violence, you're thinking of justice.
That's
you're
true.
not thinking
it's
of
the
like,
mindset, so you
can
kind of
you-
almost have to change that.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, we got to think. We are wired, literally wired, to live in a community setting, to share ideas, information, and proximity, housing, communities.
Yeah.
And we can't do that in a healthy way if we don't understand how to overcome hate and aggression and self-doubt and
Yeah.
And I also think that, that figure that Scott mentioned, how much we spend on researching violence and gun violence, why that's so surprising right now is because I feel like as a country, we're really in a crisis mode with these violent shootings that are happening all over the country. And it seems like they're not really happening as much in the rest of the world. So it's surprising that we spend so little on something that's become such a huge issue, and it's impacted obviously our communities so largely. It's astounding.
It's really astounding, and I get like change only occurs when you're outside of your comfort zone, and it's hard to compel people to move out of your comfort zone. Everybody wants to be comfortable.
Yep.
But you got to think about nothing in life comes without some strife. A little bit of suffering is required for growth or change. My old kung fu teacher used to say the gem doesn't shine without friction.
Yeah.
And so
It's true. That's a good one. I like that one.
you got to put in the work. But at the same time, if you go into the ring, so to speak, to using a fight analogy, if you go into the ring just expecting to pound it out, then you're going to get pounded.
Yeah.
And if instead you avoid getting in the ring in the first place and you work something out, then there's other places outside of that square or octagon that you could you think outside of the box and work there, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, just sing a different song,
Yeah. Yep. And you're bringing the awareness with the project that you launched last year called the Brainstorm Experience, which has just been awesome. Love the videos.
Right? Yeah, they're not bad. They're really high production quality. I can give you the name of a really good production artist.
Nice, awesome. So I know that we're just coming off the first season, and you've had some amazing guests. I think I attended all of them. I think, but two, because I was in Disney for one, and then I had a sick kid for the, or I think it was the whole macro burst tornado scene. I think that's the other one that I missed.
That was crazy. But we did get it recorded.
Yeah, I know, right? We got it all down, right? I don't know that weather-wise you could go through a tougher second season. You know what I mean? I think that like second season, you had everything kind of thrown at you. You're doing it for the first time. Yeah. I mean, you'd much rather have been like in season 3 or 4 when all the weather, because you're still learning all the the nuances of setting that up. You know what I mean? So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you thought of coming up with this, the brainstorm experience, and just speak a little bit about, you know, the concept behind it.
Well, you know, so you kind of brought it into focus earlier when one of our goals was just to educate people on brain science is the least explored of all of our sciences. You know, just this morning in the office, we were looking at, Nick was showing me this amazing video that you can see of the Mars lander. Literally, you can
Awesome.
look around in a 3D view on the surface of the planet Mars. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about what's between our ears here, and that's considering that this is the organ we use to consider. It's really ironic how little we know about it. But we also want people to know we do know maybe not a lot of the molecular and chemical structural changes that take place that lead to behaviors. We're learning those and we're studying them, and we're funding some of these studies when it pertains to behaviors. But we do know a lot of the environmental risk factors that we have control over, that when they go into that mysterious goo, the result is likelier chance of aggression and violence. And there's protective factors that we know scientifically are established that if they go in, the result is compassion or the opposite of violence, whatever that is, and connection, community resilience, whatever, kindness. And so we want to educate people on that. Mm-hmm. And so really early on, I said, wouldn't it be great if we could get some of these wonderful speakers that are kind of world experts in different aspects of brain health, whether it's straight up psychiatry or neuroscience, or if it's living with a disorder like bipolar disorder, mm-hmm. or an expert in suicide prevention. I
mean, even just how to, you know, raise your kids to a certain extent, like letting your kids,
educational experts,
I mean, that's
experts.
what I love about it too, because, you know, I don't know too much about science, but I'm a parent, and I want to educate myself, and you know, there is a science behind that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had everything from you know, like you just mentioned, education and parenting experts like Rosalind Wiseman, who wrote the Queen Bees and Wannabes, which became the movie and now the Broadway show of Mean Girls.
Yep.
All the way up to Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who's, you know, a neuropsychiatrist and wrote like one of the key books on the effects of trauma on your body that you may or may not even be aware are there, but the body keeps the score, so to speak, is the name of his book. But everybody's instructed, and they've done such an amazing job as far as our speakers go to really break these topics down to appeal to the parent, the teacher, the healthcare provider, to anybody.
Yeah.
And so the everyday person can come in. One, it's entertaining, and two, you're going to learn something, and then you have the opportunity to interact and ask questions and hopefully continue discussion so that we can all grow together. Yeah,
no, it's such an awesome program, and I bring my kids to all of them as well. And it was funny because the last speaker was Jessica Leahy.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
The gift of failure.
The gift of failure, right? So one of the things that she was talking about is, you know, letting your kids, you know, fail and work it out on their own. And, you know, to not be one of those parents that's just constantly on their kids. No, like this, don't do it like that.
Yeah. Let me help you.
And it was pretty funny because me and my son, right when she said that, my son is he's 12 years old. He's just been starting to learn how to mow the lawn. And that is exactly what I would do, except on a heightened scale because of a lawnmower running. Yeah. So I'm like waving my arms. I'm bringing him in like he's on a runway. I'm like, I'm doing this. Like, so we both just looked at each other and I was like, wow, that's it. And, you know, now I'm going to take a different approach. Now I'm going to let him mow the lawn. And when he has all the corners not, you know, when he cut in on all the corners, he's going to have to go back and forth. And then next time he's going to think, all right, well, I got to do it. And if he doesn't do it next time, he's going to continue to do it. So that's like something that I was able to learn from there. And that's something that I've really kind of tried to, you know, really think a lot about and really try to absorb, because that's huge. You know what I mean? What she was saying and how you're able to, one of the things she said that was awesome was like, you know, when you've had your best like aha moments and you've really kind of found, when is the last time somebody had that happen and their parent was next to them? I mean, that was just like the greatest quote ever, because it's like, you know what I mean? It's like you got to let your kids be. And I think that a lot of times with society now, you know, we shelter them a lot, and you know, rightfully so to a certain extent on why we would do that. But I mean, we track them everywhere they go now, so
yeah,
it's a lot easier. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
I mean, it's crazy. Like you know, it's a pendulum swing. When I grew up, I'm sure it was really similar where you grew up.
Yep.
In that day and age, I was the classic latchkey. You know, I mean, literally at the age of 6, I would take myself to school. I'd get myself breakfast. I'd walk to school. I'd go to school. I'd walk home.
Yep.
I would get myself a snack, and I'd go out and play. I just had to be back for dinner, kind of thing.
Or you just hear your mom screaming from the top of it. You can hear your mom through the neighborhood.
Where the hell are you? Yeah. But you know, now you know, like we won't even let our kids go out in the yard to play without checking in and knowing exactly what they're doing, and you're still popping your head out there going, are you okay? What
I know.
Are they getting in trouble?
Yeah.
And it's just such another extreme. You know, report cards. You didn't even have to show your parents a report card. There was no online grade like, oh, let me just see how they're doing in this class.
You didn't get an alert from Google Classroom.
Right.
You know?
You know, and if you failed something or you got a bad grade and they had to sign it, you know, you would either suck it up and have them sign it, or you just forge it and be done with it. But nowadays, you know, your kid gets a B on the essay that you wrote. I mean, that they wrote, and and you're calling the teacher saying, "I really think you should reconsider." You know, every kid gets a blue ribbon for attendance, and everybody gets a trophy. And at some point, they're gonna fail.
Yep.
And if you don't build that into them and build in not just the experience of failure, I mean, that's not the goal in and of itself. It's this growth mindset that, you know, that was coined by Carol Dweck, but this mindset that it's not a grade that you're working for. It's the mindset that you can fail, that's okay, and that you can build, you know, you can build this with effort, and that's what matters.
So do you think, you know, you were talking about a pendulum, like, do you think that, you know, maybe we were a little too reckless back in the beginning, like the way that our parents were, how we were just be able to be 6, 7, 8 years old and go walk to the 7-Eleven like I used to do. And now do you think it's maybe should be somewhere in the middle?
Yeah.
Because I get it. We should be a little more cautious than we used to be.
Engaged. I mean, I don't even think it's really the caution. I don't think that parents were any less caring or loving when I grew up.
Yeah.
I just think that it's you need to be present and engaged, but not so overbearing that you're actually living. Maybe you're living vicariously through your child, and you know, their successes now are like, oh, I never won state wrestling champion, and now but now my kid did. So look at me.
Yep.
And then you know, and it could also just be that, you know, you remember how you felt when you got a bad grade, or when you were on the splits with your friends, or something wasn't working, and you want to shelter them from that, and that makes sense. But it's so much more valuable just to be present for them. Like, oh man, that's really rough.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yep.
You know.
No, I mean, it's
just hear them and be there and let them work it out.
Yeah, because you want them to feel like, if they're failing something, like, you want them to feel it, and how are they going to get out of it? You don't want them to think, oh, my parents going to be mad at me, or oh, I'm going to be. That shouldn't be their focus. Yeah. Their focus should be, how am I going to get myself out of this, and how am I going to deal with this? So the more we kind of encroach on them nonstop with kind of the society of way that it is now, the harder the harder it gets. So that's one of the reasons I like it, because sometimes you do those things and you don't realize it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny, like how slowly but surely, you know, I'm out there directing traffic like I'm a freaking, you know, like I'm on the runway with my son on the lawnmower. And it's like, I didn't even really realize that. And that's why the Brainstorm experience is so educational.
That's right.
And that's what the value that I love to get from it. I think it's awesome.
We want to give, you know, with every experience, we want to give somebody that aha moment that, you know, maybe 90% of it is something that you already kind of knew and you're
Yeah.
proud of yourself. Yeah, I knew that. I do that. I'm great that way. But then you might have that the way that they say something. You know, I remember I really loved the way when Dan Harris was here talking about mindfulness and the power of
He
meditation.
was awesome.
And he just makes it so simple. He's like, you know, I'm not telling you to like turn into a Buddhist and go to a temple and live in Dharmasala for 10 years.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is if you practice this and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, you will feel better.
Yeah.
Maybe just 10% happier. And
But hey, 10% is 10%.
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you've had some awesome guests season 1. So when is season 2 kicking off?
January 13th, 17th? January 17th.
Cool. And who are some of the guests
So
that you have?
we kick it off with an amazing speaker, a real cult of personality. It's Sally Cohn.
Yep.
And she's going to talk about a book that she just put out that we all just finished in the office, and we've been talking about it pretty nonstop, called The Opposite of Hate.
Okay.
And it's looking at essentially how do we... First of all, she explores the fact that we're all wired with necessarily, like literally, you can't stop this. Your brain is wired to see differences.
Mm-hmm.
It's this and not this. This is me and not me. These are my people and not my people.
Yep.
So you end up with these in-group and out-group dynamics that can lead to implicit biases and explicit biases. So an explicit bias would be racism.
Yep.
An implicit bias would be another ism that you're not aware of.
Yeah.
You know, it might be one that I grew up realizing later in life that I had, a simple one that, you know, is important to recognize it, but it's not necessarily harmful. But if somebody says, you know, I went to my doctor today and the doctor said this and the doctor gave me this prescription and told me I need to change my lifestyle, you're picturing probably a white male.
Yeah.
And if you say, oh, the nurse was really good, very professional, helped me get geared up, did this test, well, you're probably picturing a female.
Mm-hmm.
And the statistics don't bear out. So those are implicit biases.
Okay.
You know, when you see somebody driving a car and they're dressed one way, you think business person, and there's somebody else dressed a different way driving a fancy car, and you might be like drug dealer.
Yeah.
That's
yep.
an implicit bias.
Yeah.
She wants to explore the fact that, one, recognize you have them. Everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
You can't not have them. But at the same time, you can break those down and you can broaden them so that your in-group isn't necessarily so narrow.
Yeah.
And the way that you do that is through connection and community. And that's how you break down barriers to hate. And
that sounds awesome. Can't wait to take the kids to that one. That's going to be a good one.
It's gonna be really good. Some of it's pretty brutal. It's not a lot of hippie trippy lovey dovey, because she expresses, you know, things like these implicit biases that seem innocuous can end up leading to genocide.
Yeah.
You know, look at Nazi Germany. Look at Rwanda.
Yeah.
Look at where you like to think. I would never have done that. I would have helped the Jews. I would have helped.
It's funny that you're talking. I think about this like what you're talking about. Exactly. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. It's funny.
But
when you're in the situation.
But she highlights, look, that you can't deny the statistical fact. 0.5% of people in Nazi Germany helped.
Yeah.
So statistically speaking, you would have been part of the problem. Statistically speaking, I would have been too.
I always think about that, because I'm like, it's when you're inside of that and everybody around you, and it's how you're kind of programmed to think to a certain extent, and you have that, you know. So
you know, so that's Sally Cohn. It's going to be amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, super impactful, and I think it'll be a real eye opener.
You said she has a book out, right?
Yep. The Opposite
almost
of Hate.
all the guests have.
Almost all of them. I mean, that's not necessarily why we invite them, but
they
almost all of them have had something that they could that you could explore outside of them.
Yeah, because they've done the research, they have the information. So
right.
And then I know you have a couple other great names that are coming in.
Brene
as well.
Brown.
That's going to be an awesome
fourth most viewed TED Talk in history.
That's great.
She's just an incredibly dynamic speaker. Really, really bright. She's going to talk about leadership.
Yep.
Interestingly, and what it means to be a leader and how to do it effectively and with compassion. And I'm really excited about that. She's definitely going to be one of the season highlights. We have another one of my personal favorites that we're inviting out is the Aviel Foundation's Pioneer and Research Award winner this year, Nadine Burke-Harris. She's a pediatrician that has really championed an understanding and the study of adverse childhood experiences, so different forms of abuse, whether it's physical abuse, sexual, psychological, or neglectful abuse. These have consequences that stick with you all the way through your life, and it has a lot of detriment leading to it. She studies this and tries to understand it on an individual basis, from a parenting perspective, and from a community perspective and a public health perspective. And more importantly, she's trying to look down to say, how do I cure this? How do I see this as a disease that can be helped, so that you aren't growing up to be people that are exposed to this adversity scientifically have been proven to engage in self-harm and harm to others in a profoundly elevated level. And she wants to counteract that.
That's awesome.
So she's going to come out. She has a book also called The Deepest Well. Wholly recommended. It's a great book.
Yep.
It's a fun read. It's not like a PhD dissertation or anything.
Yeah.
And she's a dynamic and interesting woman. We also have and then kind of everything in between. We have a fire eater that's going to come, and
wow,
that's cool.
Yeah, like a little circus sideshow.
That's cool. And the music is awesome too. I mean, it's really cool. Tell us a little bit about how you set up with the music and how all that kind of works.
Well, so I'll tell you all about that, but we're not going to do that for season 2. But
okay.
We had a song post the 1214 tragedy. We had a lot of amazing gestures of great generosity and people reaching out and trying to do kind things, which is amazing. It's just really it's really moving how amazing people can be when their hearts are broken with you.
Yeah.
And one of the gestures was to basically have a song written, pay to have a song written by a singer-songwriter about Aviel. And this singer-songwriter, Sarah Morris, wrote this amazing song she didn't name it, called Magic.
Okay.
And it was she just nailed Aviel's personality. It's such a good song. And in the early days of kind of brainstorming how we were going to do the brainstorm,
yep.
One of our art director at the time came up with, Dave Brooker came up with the idea, wouldn't it be cool if we had that song open the show with a musical guest, but the guest is different every time but sings the same song? And I thought
all different genres too.
Well, it just turned out to be totally cool because, the first one was a dear friend of ours, Francine Wheeler, who also lost her child in the same tragedy, Ben. And she's an amazing singer, and she did the first one, and it was great because it's just another version of the song. But then we moved into everything from heavy metal punk bands to sort of a little bit of reggae dub sound, kind of chill versions. We've had New Orleans swing jazz version. We've had acapella, high school acapella band perform it. So, and then the season finale, which was just with Jessica Leahy.
I mean,
we had Sarah
brought
come
it
out,
home,
and it was just a showstopper. And then
it was great.
Then we had another concert experience with just a barn concert with Sarah Morris, which was just super fun, very intimate.
Yeah, I mean, she blew me away with that song. I mean, all of them performed it great, but hearing it from the original artist, obviously, and at the end of the season, it was perfect. Great. So you're not going to be doing that.
Not next season.
Because we were hoping to see a rapper get up there and do it. We were really hoping, actually, maybe even Chase to get up there. No, I'm just kidding.
That was the logical next step.
Well, we can make that happen.
Please no.
So you're going to open it up the show a little different?
So the theme, the stage theme and the sort of the ethos of season 2 is outer space.
Oh, cool.
So the set design is going to be different. We're going to have some really cool stage props. The vision, the mindset is going to be a little bit different. And we're going to come out onto the stage and explain sort of what constellation in space we think this particular speaker is going to address tonight.
Nice.
And we're going to, as a constellation, you know, is just little clusters of stars that are connected by these invisible lines
Yep.
that create an image, a picture, and that's the brain health picture that we want people to get from the brainstorm experience. So we're going to say tonight's speaker is really talking about getting outside your comfort zone.
Yep.
This is really important. You don't change, your brain can't change. You can't rewire something in your comfort zone, and this is why it's so important. And so here's the cluster here.
Yep.
The next speaker, you know, get up and explain why did we have this person come, and what does it mean to us? What do we want them to get out of it? Explain the neuroscience behind it. If they're, you know, in the most simple way, here's what we want you to get out of this and why we thought it was relevant. Because we might have fallen short a little bit on a couple of speakers that are like, why do you have this guy talking about Tough Mudders? You know? But I don't get it. And we're like, oh, okay. We need to really bring it home, connect the dots. So
And you're still going to be doing the one of the things that you guys do, which I think is awesome, is you make it to where you can text questions in.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Obviously, you're still going to do that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we could come up with an even more dynamic, like we want people to feel not that they're being lectured to, but that they're part of the
It definitely creates
experience.
that.
And if we could find a better way to do that, I'd love to, you know, so if anybody out there has a creative idea, just hit me up. I would love to hear it.
Awesome.
But we do love, we have the ability, you can text in a question. We get it right there on stage. We can get it during the entire, you know, presentation beforehand. And then we address them and want to make it just a real comfortable fireside conversation that the audience feels like they're part of.
Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. So tell me how it was like to set up the brainstorm experience. You have no background in setting this up. This is kind of like the entrepreneur side of you, where you're just going to just jump right in. You're going to have to fail and learn and figure it all out. And like I said, with the weather, you had a lot of things thrown at you. That
we really brought the storm to the brainstorm. Yeah.
So how did you exactly, you know, get through all that, setting up something that you've never done before, you know, from lighting to video to, you know, to just getting the guests and everything. It's almost like a whole production company. It
is. And, you know, the joy of sort of being, you know, entrepreneurial is when you jump into something new, you have what I call the ostrich effect. You don't know if all this world just came into existence right when you pulled your head out of your hole, or if it was always there. And you just didn't know about it. So the being naive and jumping in is sometimes a huge advantage, because you can say, you know, how hard could it be? And then, you know,
then you find out.
Yeah. So there was a lot of discovery, and I wouldn't say it was painless, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
Knowing like what you have to have lined up, timing wise, how long a sound check takes. So many things has to
align, right?
Details of lighting that I would never have thought of. Set design, everything from what time should the guest be there to
where they have to stand on the stage. I mean, literally.
Do we need a follow spot? Do we not need a follow spot? How do we?
Guest is late. Guest got delayed.
Well, yeah, we had to. So our first guest got snowed out. So that was like, oh, how do we cancel it and reschedule? Like, how do we do this? Do we refund?
That was the very first
show. So we missed the first show because of snow. The second guest, well, and then eventually we had, that was Steve Gross talking about the power of optimism and how critical that is to living a healthy life. So he then made it, a week, 2 weeks later. Then our second guest, Kevin Hines, like literally showed up 3 minutes before he was supposed to be on stage.
Wow.
That was a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
So, just every show there was a fail. Like, hopefully the audience doesn't even know about it.
Yeah.
And that was our goal. Maybe a couple of times where we started late, so they're like, "Oh, something's up." Or
yep. But no, I mean, I think you guys
technical snafus, a mic that with Jessica, her mic went out.
Yeah, right.
She's like, "Oh," but she was a pro. She was like, "Oh, I don't need it. I can just talk really loud.
Yeah, it was
no
great.
big deal."
Yeah.
So that just works out. every single show there was some snafu, and our goal is to twofold: one, learn something, and
The gift of failure.
and two, yeah,
Right?
But,
I mean-
but throw it out there because if there's any audience that's gonna be like, oh, give me a hug, I'm not.
Yeah.
And then give me my money back.
Yeah, right.
But that's an audience that we're like totally okay failing in front of, and
Yeah, I mean, you guys it's not this super uptight science show. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
a relaxed thing, like, how you did the music in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you're not like, you guys are wearing like T-shirts and sweatshirts and jeans. You know what I mean? It's not this super uptight.
by design, we want
Yeah.
it to be like, hey,
I showed
come
up in
to
a
my
sport coat.
house.
The first one, I showed up in a sport coat. I felt so overdressed.
Yeah, right. And that's fine, and we actually did debate, like, do I wear my jacket or do I wear my jeans? And
No,
we
I
also said-
love the casual look. I think it brings kind of that feeling. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like it's the whole message anyway. It just goes with what you're doing within the experience and stuff. So
and that's the point, and so we want to continue that sort of culture, and we want to continue it, and I think people are starting to trust us. So, like, yes, we have failed at a number of things, but it allows us to grow. It allows us to get better ideas, and again, it's that failure that allows you to get there. So I think it is improving, and I think that that you can see over the course of the season where we were really working hard to get people in the doors.
mm-hmm.
We needed your videos
Yep.
to really advertise to people like, this is what you're going to get. We do want it to be casual, but we totally want it to be high production value.
And-
we want people to be able to see it that aren't in Connecticut.
Yep.
We want people in California to be able to like, oh my gosh, this is so good. We want to be the neuroscience TED Talk, equivalent.
And the little snafus that happen are not like from me. I know it's so hard when you're the one inside
Sure.
doing it. You take it so much more when you're
Of
you're
course.
running it.
Yeah.
I'm the same way with my business and stuff. But from a person just watching it, the content is there. You know what I mean? The content, the message that's being delivered, that's there, and that's the important thing.
And
So-
people are watching the videos, which really that gets us jazzed up. And people are trusting us now. So like, I can imagine. I'm pretty confident Brene Brown's going to sell out.
Yeah.
No problem. We're not
Yep.
even going to have to advertise a whole lot. But now people are going to come to,
people that they haven't
that they've
heard
never
of.
heard of before because they trust like this is a good thing. And we can tell that that's effective because we're already selling, we're almost sold out of our VIP. We call them the VGHs, very good human
Cool.
passes.
Cool.
We're selling a ton of the season passes so that people are like, yep, I trust you. I'm going to go to every show.
Yeah.
And that's really that so profoundly motivates us because
Yeah.
it says we're doing the right thing. And people are now traveling. We have people that aren't even from Connecticut that are coming. We had people fly in from basically they did their off-site annual meeting to come to a brainstorm experience.
Oh, that's cool.
From literally around the world, from Taiwan to
That is amazing.
all across the
Wow.
country.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
It's
so,
incredible.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming in, telling our story. Let's actually tell people because we didn't tell them where the brainstorm is at. So let's
So,
that in Town
So the
Hall.
Avielle Foundation, first of all, look us up online, AVIELLE foundation.org. The first thing you'll see when you go on there is the brainstorm experience. So you can get all the shows in highly produced and beautiful video format
Yep.
right on our website.
Yep.
And thanks to Mac Media.
All right.
And they take place in a very iconic old school town hall right in the center of Newtown, Connecticut, right by the flagpole.
Yep.
Everybody knows about the car hazard.
Yeah.
And they take place. The doors usually open around 6:30, and the show usually goes on promptly at 7.
Yep. Yep.
If all goes well. And
and what's
again,
the website?
AvielleFoundation.org.
All right, cool. And I know we're going to be launching a new one soon,
Yeah.
right?
Again,
so we're
thanks to
definitely have
Mac.
to have a launch party or something of sorts when
Sure.
we do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So we really appreciate you coming in. Now we have the segment of our show that we call One Question from Kev the Intern. So my man Kev the Intern that's sitting over there, come on in.
Which mic?
That one right there works a little better for you. So go ahead, Kev.
Hi. One question I have is that what's the most proudest moment you've had or proudest thing that's happened after you started the IVL Foundation?
Wow. I mean,
Or at least one.
I'm not the guy that ever likes to be in the spotlight. So like, I would say, probably getting the results of the scientific funding that we gave out to support research. We our goal was to have markers of, well, how are we going to know it was successful? Like, how's anybody that donated money going to know like it went to good use?
Yep.
And we said, well, if they publish in a top tier peer reviewed journal, then it was money well spent, because that meant that the scientific community believed it was a legitimate contribution. We put a piece of the puzzle into the brain health puzzle. And not only did we get from every single group that we funded, not only did we get publications, but in one of the cases where they sought government funding for a study at the University of Michigan, and in this day and age, it's really hard to get government funding from the NIH. So we're talking in like the top 5% of applicants will get funded. And then when it comes to violence research, it's 0.1 or less, or 0%.
Yeah.
So they tried many times. They couldn't get funding. We gave them pilot funding money to do a small version of what they wanted to do to get the data that says we really merit support.
Mm-hmm.
And with that funding, they then went back, and in this dry days of difficult top, 1 to 5% get funded, they got 2 government grants and a training grant that totaled over $7.5 million.
Wow.
So we also have now been credited for research that's published in Nature, which is 2 of them in Nature, which is the top, like Nature and Science are the top scientific peer-reviewed journals.
That's amazing.
From other groups. We have a high school intern that was published in a top tier journal because of work that we funded him to do at Yale.
Yeah.
In a very, prestigious lab to be in. So I guess that would be, there's many things.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I know you don't
proud
like to
that
toot
it's
your own
growing.
horn,
Yeah.
But that's something that's a huge accomplishment. And it's kind of helping all of us, and it's one of those things that you're bringing awareness to these type of things, and you're trying to create change. And, I appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody else does, especially with inside of this area. And I'm just looking forward to it growing and growing with you guys. And I really appreciate you coming in.
My honor and pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. I'm super excited super excited for season number 2.
Yeah.
So everybody go down to the Edmond Town Hall Theater and make sure you check out season 2 of the Brainstorm Experience. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Chase.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in.
This guy's got to go get on the phone, do some sales outreach, sell some accounts. Whenever we sell an account, I take that megaphone. I don't know if you've seen, and we say, Chase, move whatever the account is into the closed bin. So we use the megaphone a lot in here. So
awesome. Yeah.
All right, Jared. Thanks a lot for coming in,
guys.
and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.